Racing Series Le Mans 8 hours. We can see there with the overcast, it is started to cloud over here. So what we saw was a bit of sunlight at the end of stint 3. Unfortunately, we had to cut the stream short. Unfortunately, just some latency and connection issues with George Cook's end of the stream. So unfortunately for him, that's actually hampered his race. So he won't be competing in the CBR Racing Porsche for the last stint. Unfortunately for both CBR and Mashbuzz Racing in 45 and 110. Unfortunately, that car, those cars are running out of order, running out of sequence, and are finishing well down the order in the overall standings. So unfortunately for him, won't be able to race, but he's got his mate in Robert Rice joining, filling in the voids and jumping in the car for one last ride for CBR. And as we say for our drivers here, we thank them so much for participating in the Trackstars 8-hour Le Mans race. And we can't thank our drivers enough. All 45 drivers that have competed here at Trackstars Racing Series, we thank you so much for putting on a show and bringing us some awesome racing here, from all the way from LMPs down to the GT class. It's been some awesome coverage here for all of our drivers, and we can't thank them enough. As we go through the grid, it is Fish in Sharky leading the way, and more or less got himself a hand and a half on that trophy for Car 51 Ice Metropolis, barring any connection issues and barring any DCs for 51. It's more or less going to be could be an overall victory for 51 and for ISA Esports. That'll be a big trophy going to the ISA boys down in the factory, and some good confidence boost for the touring car season. Then we have James Lee for Black Rose Racing sitting P2, and then in third place for CP Motorsports, it is Dan Wood in car 18. I think solidifying himself as the second best driver, as the second best placed car rather, here at Le Mans. So with car 18, looks like they might be taking home P2, and Black Rose Racing bringing home P3 in the overall standings. And then we have Ward in Race Pig, fourth place for Robo Sport Racing. That car's been a bit up and down throughout the whole season, throughout the whole stint. Unfortunately, stint 2 and 3 didn't look like they were going their way. Breeder brought the car home nicely into fourth place at the end of that third stint. So a little bit of out of sorts for car number 69. And then we have car 32 in Ollie Daleswell making his return to Trackstars Racing Series for the first time since 2021, or since 2021 at the end of the touring car season at St. Croix C for the 1500. And then we have Walker for WRT Motorsports in the Van Wall entry, car 964, bringing that car home for the last time for WRT. And then up the front for the Porsches in the GT class is actually going to be GOAT. It's going to be Ryan Tame bringing that car home, and what a performance that we saw from Ryan Tame in that Porsche 911. Absolute class, and a very strong driver in the CP Motorsports garage. And also Natu Lee, who's actually going to be finishing off the stint here. So this is something I'm really looking forward to watching, GOAT versus Natu Lee. I'm very excited to see who can come out on top. And then Justin 930 and Justin Baker also making his return to Trackstars Racing Series on Gran Turismo 7, did a really good performance in that first stint from what I managed to watch before I had to venture off. And then as well behind him is the BCG Racing driver in Ridwan Hamza. Now this car has been a little bit up and down towards the field there, and having battles with the It's Racing Esports car, where It's Racing in Jarmandar's managed to just get ahead of Aidan Matthews at the end of the finish line, at the end of stint 3. So Hamza's got a lot of work to do if he's got any chance of putting that car 14 on the, at least for P2 in the overall standings. And then down in P5 is going to be DP Mario, car 80. The car's been really good, really safe hands with Adam Walker in the last stint. So car 80 for Black Rose Racing doing a good job, and DP Mario's showing some great consistency. Down in 6th in class is Tyler Lansdell for 45. Again, just racing for a little bit of pride, racing for a little bit of, more or less just trying to keep the car straight and just bringing the car home for a bit of fun in the 45 Mashbuzz Racing entry. And then Robert Rice in Revs down in 6th place in class for the GT cars, the last of the, no, not the last of the Porsches. And then we've got Paul Rudsey, car 84 from Motors Brewing PAG Sports in 7th in class. And then we have Silvestro Severi in the last of the CP Motorsports entries with one teammate up front in GT, the other car down at the bottom. So unfortunately, they're not been smooth sailing for car 118 in that CP Motorsports entries. But we are ready for the last stint here at Track Stars Racing Series. The 8 hour is about to draw a conclusion. Who will come out on top? Can Sharky pull away from the field and solidify the car 51's dominance here at Track Stars Racing Series 8 hour Le Mans? We're about to go green flag racing at the exit of the 4 chicanes. We are underway, and Sharky has got himself a good gap, good little jump over James Lee in 2nd place. Dan Wood right behind in 3rd, and then Ward sticking right behind them in 5th place. But Wood's going to look for an early move on James Lee. Looks like he's going for the inside move that leads to the outside, but he's made the move done before the Dunlop curve, the Dunlop chicane. So well done there to Dan Wood, and now he's going to be on the charge, just like as it was at the end of that start of that first stint. It's going to be Sharky versus Wood for the win in stint 4. But as we go here, we're going to see Ward going for a move on Lee there. Inside move through to Tetra Rouge. Unfortunately, that looks like Lee's made contact with the wall. He has, and he's put himself into the barrier at the exit of Tetra Rouge. Maybe we can see what we can find on a replay as we go on board with James Lee. Looks like he just made a little bit of a mess there before Tetra Rouge. Ward going for an inside move, a little bit late, a little bit ambitious there. Maybe Lee wasn't expecting it, and that is damage for the car 79. Front splitter and front left damage on that car, and unfortunately for both drivers, it's going to be a little bit going backwards a little bit because he just did pick up a half second there. So it looks like he got a very good run there. So maybe Lee wasn't expecting it. Oh, maybe just got a little bit understeer there on Ward's car there. So a little bit unfortunate for Ward as he drops down the order. He's just lost the position to Walker, but now actually looks to gain that position back on the WRT driver as he's still holding it around the outside there. So not over yet, but Ward back up to 3rd place. Maybe something they'll be looked at the end of the race. But now joining us back in the commentary box is Gracie Good Kung Fu in George Cook. So welcome along, my friend. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, and yeah, shame not to be out there racing today, and unfortunately enter stint 3 in terms of the commentary, but lovely to be back and some action already. Wow, Jay Lee getting really unlucky there at turn 1. That's super unfortunate, but a great battle in LMP class, race big, 0.5 second penalty, but let's see what he can do, huh?
Yeah, he's just managed to get past Walker there for 3rd place overall, but right behind him is Dalswell and Punce in 5th place, and he's looking at that rear wing of the WRT driver, and also they're both going to be looking at that rear wing from the RoboSport Racing as we go on board with Punce. My goodness, almost coming into 3 cars going to Indianapolis, but Walker holds it around the outside, loses the braking confidence through Indianapolis, and then through to Arnage. Goes for an inside move on Ward. A little bit of contact made between the 2 drivers. Punce is going to come through. It's going to make a 3 wide going on the exit of Arnage, and he picks up 2 positions for the price of 1. That was a fantastic move there by Dalzell on the car 32. Really trying to bring that car home after what's been a tough campaign for car 32 and trying to solidify some points and build some pride in that 32. But Dalzell picks 2 for 1 there, and that was some really fantastic battling on that first lap.
Oh, excellent stuff, and the waves just parted there for the 32 car. It's fantastic stuff. As you said, Budsy having a really unlucky run. He had the pace in stint 3, but the pace already looking to be back there already for the 32 car and flying away. I think the other 2 cars might have picked up a little bit of damage through the jostling they had earlier in the lap, but this is all playing into the hands of Dan Wood and Sharky, who are just flying away from this LMP field.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, as Punce has actually gone and made him a havoc there, made him a little bit too eager on the curbs there. I saw on the exit of that 4 chicane, he did cut the corner on that second part before he got to that last part of the 4 chicane, and he just got onto that green AstroTurf, and that spun him around, unfortunately. So that's his charge up the front. We're praising him for what was a great move. Unfortunately, it's just paid consequences on his end. It's always happening to me. It's always happening to me, George. It happened to me on that last stream. And yeah, I'm not bringing in good vibes for the MSR camp. I don't know what's going on my end. I mean, as I said, I was just enjoying myself in the city centre of Sarthe, and all of a sudden now just bring bad luck to the team.
I think I think a good team owner knows when to stay out of things, right? And
exactly.
Both of us just need to stay out of it. We've brought curses to our own teams numerous times tonight. It's been unbelievable. Really unfortunate for both of us, I think.
Yeah, very unfortunate for us. But yeah, as we saw there, Ward picked up a 1 second penalty. They took too much entry speed into Tetra Rouge. Picks up 1 second. Right behind him is James Lee, who was in the midst of that battle, still fighting on with that damage that he's got on the car, sitting in 5th place, but he's also picked up a half-second penalty. Thankfully for Dowswell, he actually hasn't picked up any damage at all in that 32, so he's still got a clean car. Just needs to get rid of the cobwebs out there after what that was a bit of a mess on the end of that first lap. But it's a long way to go here, George. As we always say, an endurance race is never won on that first lap, but so far it's looking very nice for Sharky in first place.
Yeah, we saw in Stint 1 the battle between Sharky and Diswood went back and forth and back and forth, and here we are again in Stint 4, and these two excellent drivers battling it out for what is probably going to make the difference in the overall standings today. But we know that 51 car that Sharky is now piloting has had a run of really good victories. I'm struggling to remember here, Nick, but Stint 1 victor was in fact Dan Wood.
Ah, was it? Okay.
I think so. We might have to, if anyone in chat could double check that for us, just to make sure we're giving you the right information. But the battle between them in Stint 1 was absolutely excellent, going back and forth. So when I saw Dan Wood jump ahead of the field there at the start, I was like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, those two just can't get a hold. They are so close to each other. They're always battling each other out, no matter what kind of racing they do. But Sharky still leads the way. If it is the case that that they have actually taken the victory, and you know they're almost kind of, if they're not going to do, if they're not able to do a clean sweep, that'll be interesting. But as we look to GT class now, as we have the two from the last stint in Stint 3 doing double stinting their cars in both Ryan Tame and Natu Lee, both starting up in first and second in class. But this is the battle that I really wanted to see, George. You know, we couldn't see it because unfortunately Natu Lee was too far behind at the start of Stint 3, but now they're right up against each other. And look, and also we have to keep our eyes on Ridwan Hamza as well, because it's really important for him. Like he won Stint 1, but unfortunately in Stint 2 and 3 his drivers struggled just that little bit to keep that car in a strong position. As we see Natu Lee burning that half-second penalty away, that'll bring Ridwan a little bit closer to car 575. But you know, we've got ourselves some really good battle packs brewing up here between Goat, Natu, and Ridwan.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And of course, hats off to Goat and his team with the Porsche. They've done a brilliant job getting the car into the right sort of slot, the right zone, whatever it is they've done to the car. They've worked some magic on it, that's for sure, because leading the GT3 class and the lead of the Porsches with a couple of Corvettes, which we've mentioned before, pretty quick, those Corvettes. So it's good to see a Porsche at the front of the field, which helps justify my own choice for my team. But aside from that, it's a great drive, and yes, we want to see that all going at it with Goat, and we'll see this all race long. We saw some really good pace from the 911 of Goat, and he's obviously a very, very capable driver in that Porsche, versus more capable drivers in Natal, and such a shame that we saw some incidents that cost Natal a higher position than he probably deserved in Stint 3, let's be honest.
Absolutely, and unfortunately in that battle that we didn't get to see there, and maybe just caught the back end as I was going through the grid there, that Jarman Dowds actually just beat Matthews on that last lap. So the last lap that we were anticipating for a great battle, unfortunately just we couldn't get to see it, but he got the bragging rights over the BCG racing driver, and yeah, he's done a very good job. Now they've got Justin 930 and Justin Baker back in that car just to bring that car home. Will looks potentially be bringing up good, maybe a overall P3 positioning. As we said, we'll wait and see how the standings are at the end of this 8-hour event. You know, a lot of work that needs to be done in the background by our series admins and calculating everyone's lap times, recording lap times, and see who finished where. And it's all about just these drivers on this last stint really just going full send. Just really push the car to its absolute limit, run it as wide as you can without triggering a half-second penalty. Really use those tires up, play a good strategy game. And you never know, it could move you up a position at the end of it. It could, potentially give you a step on the podium. You just never know.
Yeah, correct. And we'll be waiting eagerly for the admins to do their work. And hats off to all the admins and the team at Trackstars for putting on such a fantastic event for us. It's been a privilege, I think, from my point of view, being a team owner and leading the 110 car through things. We do flick past my lovely little car back there, but nonetheless, it's been a fantastic event. And it's not one of those things that you end up wanting to miss out on. I think this is one of those great events, and Le Mans is a fantastic track, and in amongst really fantastic drivers from all around the GT7 community and abroad as well, which has been fantastic to see. And a little confirmation from chat that it was in fact Dan Wood that did actually win that first stint, so it won't be a clean sweep for the 51 car this weekend, but the overall laps are going to count. We know how fast Ando was. He was probably close to half a lap, I think, up on the rest of the LMP field at the end of stint 3, so that could really make a difference in terms of the overall laps.
Yeah, and I think, and I believe Sharky wasn't too far behind Dan Wood at the end of that first.
No, it was about a second.
Yeah, so reading off that, it was about a second. So even if that's the case, it'll still, put 51 in a very, very strong position just to take the overall win. As we see James Lee in the pit lane for Black Rose Racing, we see Ward go really deep through the portions for the Dunlop chicane. Really struggling to come to grips so far in that car 69, really struggling. And as you can see there at James Lee's pit crew, that car looks like it's on ice. My goodness, it's so wide. It's unbelievable. I've never actually seen that before.
Yeah, they've heated the tyres up with dry ice, mate. It's a new strategy to keep the tyres hot and cold at the same time. Not quite sure what was going on there, but the damage
that was insane. I couldn't believe that. I've never seen that on Gran Turismo 7. That is absolutely cool.
Oh, we've seen some magic tonight on GT7, that's for sure. But it's still a brilliant platform to be racing on, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately for James Lee's end, he's down in 6th place. Didn't change any tyres. Just maybe maybe fix the damage. I don't know if he put in some fuel in that car. Cannot remember. He actually did. He actually did put some fuel in that car. So fill the car up, fix the damage, and I think it's not a bad strategy because when you do pick up that little bit of damage, usually the driver's instinct is just say, right, just fix the damage. Let's just go. Let's just try again. But you got some drivers there that think, well, I'm 73 liters of fuel left in the car, and I'll just throw in an extra 20. I'll throw in an extra 27%, and we can run an extra couple of laps over our competitors because they look like they're going to be fighting, at least for the stint victory, against Walker, against Ward, and against Punz, because the front two are just flying away, running away, up in fifth.
Yeah. They're in the hyperclass. It's certainly looking very dominant, those two cars. And I agree, it's you chuck in a little bit of fuel, you change the strategy, you adjust to the conditions, and you keep on moving. And the clean air is going to be really helpful for them anyway.
100%. Yeah, Lee's going to be really honing in those laps and just really running that fuel just a little bit more on the aggressive side. Really just try and take some corners a little bit more aggressive than you normally would, just to try and close up that gap, as well as saving a little bit of fuel through some of the mid corners, especially through Porsche and Corvette curves. As we can see here, car 95, the more electric, more mechanical sponsored It's Racing Esports car, doing a nice job, sitting up in 4th place in class. Lost that position to Ridwan at the start, unfortunately, so Justin's sitting in 4th place, just fending off from DP Mario from Black Rose Racing car 80. It's a nice little battle pack that's going to be forming between those two Porsches, and then right behind them is Tyler Lansdale, 6th in class, not having a great start to the race, but it's a long race ahead of an hour, just almost an hour and 40 to go. And the top and as we can see there, we're actually be keeping an eye on that battle pack between Natu, Ridwan, and as well Goat, because I'll be interested to see. It's actually now we can actually see it. Ridwan's actually closed up to Natu Lee, so Ridwan's showing a little bit more pace over the 575 ISA Oak Hill entry.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there's a fuel difference in the amount of fuel being used between them. That didn't look like a great exit there for Goat, but the Porsche's always a little bit slow off the line sometimes if you get it even slightly wrong on the exit. But you're right, Hamza there, closing up on Natol. So we're going to see a little bit of a Corvette-to-Corvette battle here, I think, pretty soon, because the gap's pretty close. And we know how powerful and fast that Corvette can be in a straight line. So 2 battle packs opening up in GT3 now, 3x3, and then we've got the tail runners as well. I think the LMP class is sort of spreading its wings once again. Always seems to get pretty wide between them pretty quickly in this race, and then it starts to come back together a little bit later in the race, which is always good fun to watch.
As you can see there, the difference in speed that these guys can take. Looks like the BCG race has got a little bit more downforce compared to Natu Lee's entry, so you can actually see with the corner exit is actually able to get that car planted a little bit quicker than what car 575's got. Maybe that's why potentially why Natu really struggled to close that gap to Goat, even though it was a huge gap between them two. He wasn't actually reeling him in as quickly as what we would have thought, you know, being in the Corvette, especially through the straight section of the track through Mulsanne and then onto the back straight. You know, you would expect him to really be closing that gap just by fine margins, but you know, really struggling at the moment to get the grips with his 575, because it looks like Ridwan is really pressurizing him. He's really closing that gap, and he wants to get a move on. He wants to get that BCG 14 back up the pointy end and really try and hone in some good points and a good finishing position to finish off this race.
Yeah, I think Hamza there will be thinking that Natol's holding him up a little bit at this stage. You're right, he'll absolutely want to get past him, because I think Hamza's got the pace here to put a challenge onto Goat, who is opening up the gap. I think the gap's looking like maybe 2 seconds now between Natol. So Natol's got, you know, Hamza in the rearview mirror. He's starting to get under a little bit of pressure here. He knows he has to make perfect corners every time. And when you see a driver who's very quick behind you, start to go a little bit more defensive. You start to check your rear vision mirror a little bit more than maybe the apexes that you should be aiming for on track. And yeah, as we said before, the mental concertina effect, the mental bandwidth. When you're worrying about a car behind, it's harder to focus on the track ahead of you.
Absolutely, and you can just see there at the end of Tetra Rouge, it was absolutely gained so much on Natu Lee, and you can see there on the straights how quickly Natu's actually pulling away. So I think my theory proves right that, you know, Natu is running a low downforce package compared to Ridwan, so it's very important for Ridwan to really close that gap and really try and make a move. But as we see ahead, Natu's actually picked up a half second on the exit of Tetra Rouge, and unfortunately for him, he could potentially lose that position to Ridwan. But it's also important for Natu to really push that car through the second part of the chicane, and especially through Mulsanne corner.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because when, as you said before, the downforce is clearly different between these cars. And if the grid order does change here between these two, if Hamza gets up into 8th position, I think you'll suddenly find that on the straights, Natol on the slipstream is incredibly quick, and that position might just switch around again. So Hamza is he's probably closing up more so on the corners, on the exits, than he is anywhere else. As you were saying, on the straights, it looks pretty even between these two, even though you've only got 0.6 between them. That should be giving Hamza a huge slipstream, but the effect is not as big as we would have expected at this stage, I think.
Not so, and yeah, we just saw an interesting comment there. You know, it could potentially, or as we saw, probably latency there for Ridwan. Maybe he actually lost it on his end, but it was so close. He was actually facing the wall there. But yeah, it was an interesting comment there by Jarman saying, you know, he could, like, what Ridwan could be doing is actually fuel saving. He might be actually running, even though he's running close to Natu, he might be just putting the lean, he might be bringing on a little bit of lean mixture in that Corvette, because we know that the Porsche is very strong on its fuel saving economy, but so is the Corvette. All you have to do is just shift it halfway, and you get yourself some. You still get good power, like the power to torque ratio. When you half shift these cars, it's still pretty strong, and it's still probably like one of the top cars around this track, especially with these long straights. But Natu has actually served that penalty. Will Ridwan get past him before they get to the Porsche curves? He's going to go for an outside move, which will turn to the inside as he goes through Porsche curves. Will Natu just back out of it? He does. So he's done the right thing. Didn't really want to fight it. Still a long way to go in this race. And he's given he's given that position to Ridwan. So now Ridwan's got to get 2.7 on Tame, who's leading the GT class with a very comfortable margin potentially for the overall race victory for CP Motorsports. But BCG Racing have got a bit of clear air, and they're ready to fight, and they're ready to take on GOAT.
Yeah, and the fuel saving is a good point actually at the end of the day, because we've seen it before. Who was it we saw? We saw with the Ando, we've seen it with Budsy and a few others who have pitted not on a smell of an oily rag, so they've been pitting well above 0 litres of fuel and choosing to reduce the time that they spend in the pit stops. On this track, at the end of the day, the more time you spend sitting in the pit stopped, you are going to lose that significantly on track. And we've seen a few position switcheroos in terms of strategy that have equated from that. Not with the likes of Ando, who was way too far ahead during his stint to have that effect. But you can, I think we have 5 litres a second. So if you can pit with an extra 20 litres after doing a normal stint length, that can save you 4 seconds on track. That is pretty significant. That's the distance between these 3 drivers we're on board with now.
Yeah, 100%, and you can definitely see there. Ridwan's really closed that gap. It was 2.8 before Ford chicane, and now they're up going on to Mulsanne. He's actually dropped that gap to about 0.4 of a second, so he's got a little bit more straight line speed than what GOAT has. Obviously, with the nature of the Corvette being a little bit stronger on the straight lines compared to that Porsche. But I'm thinking they might be running more or less a very similar setup, but just in 2 different cars. There you can see that Ridwan is really able to close just that little bit and then lose a bit, and then with GOAT, the same vice versa through the corners and on the straights. So very, very similar setups both CP and BCG drivers have. But as we can see here, the 4th place battle between Justin, Mario and Lansdell is heating up here. We're about to go almost 28 minutes into this last stint of the Le Mans 8 Hours, proudly brought to you by Trackstars Racing Series. We can see there Lansdale. Oh, actually, no, that's not Lansdale. That's Sharky overtaking some cars there. So just weaving him through, a little bit of a slamming through for the fish.
Just doing his license test, with the cones, just treating the GT3 cars as static objects on track.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, as you said there, all the cars are represented. All the cars are being very well respected on track. With the LMP cars just trying to negotiate through the traffic, and really just trying to make sure that the GT cars don't really have to get out of the way. It's all up to the LMP cars just to really negotiate the traffic around them, and these cars can run their racing lines. They can do whatever they like. But it's just all up to the LMP cars to really say, you have to really plan it, because it was always the same with me. Like, when the first time I drove on the highway in Australia, it's like, on my L's, it's the most scariest thing I've done in my entire life. But when you see some trucks coming through, they plan their overtakes, and the cars plan their overtakes ahead of you. And yeah, it gets scary sometimes, but then when I do it, I'm just like, oh god, now what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. I know the feeling. It's the same thing on these New Zealand roads here. We don't have nice fancy multi-lane highways here. We've just got 2-lane highways with no barriers in between, so you've got to be very tactical on these roads. Be respectful to the drivers ahead and to behind you as well. If you're driving slower, then making sure that you're taking advantage of moving over. But they don't have to do this in GT3 class. They just need to hold their line and be predictable. If you can do that, which admittedly I have failed at once unfortunately, during my first stint, But if you can just hold your line, and we do see Tyler making a move there on DP Mario. Did that happen at the previous corner, or that just happened straight here?
It actually happened at Indianapolis, so Lansdale did get ahead of DP Mario, so he's got a bit of clear air now. He's got rid of one Porsche, now he's got to get rid of the other one in Justin 930. So we do keep in mind that Justin is actually making his return back to Gran Turismo 7 and back to Trackstars Racing Series. He's been racing on the iRacing platform. That Trackstars Racing Series brings us on Thursday nights on the PC world, and it's great to see him actually back on the PlayStation and really giving a good hot crack for It's Racing Esports. He's a long-time serving member for It's Racing Esports. Raced alongside him. Did Justin 930 in the 2021 touring cars and Formula season. So did a very good job representing that brand. He's been a long-serving member as well as the founder in It's Racing. So he's there. Every time there's an endurance event in any forms of racing, whether it's iRacing or GT7, you know, he'll always put his hand up to his team boss and say, like, "Yep, sign me up for that car."
He's a kindred spirit then, with many of us who enjoy the long format of these races. And I mean, you can't go wrong with a good endurance event here and there. I mean, we've just had the 24-hour Le Mans in real life, which was just absolutely brilliant. We've got Formula 1, not the longest endurance style. Mario now right on the back of Tyler, giving him maybe a little bit of a bump there, saying, "Hey, keep it going, I want to be in this fight." DP Mario was very kind to me a couple of times with a couple of bumps on track. Could have absolutely overtaken me, but he decided not to. Tyler is going to go for the move. It's a great little move. Look at the overspeed of that Corvette. That's brilliant stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As we see some LMP cars, really just trying to negotiate. Look at all that. That's an absolute traffic cone right there, and all of them are just really just trying to negotiate through all of that GT cars. My goodness, that was close. That was a bit of a heart of mouth moment there for both Walker and Ward, and even Dalswell as he exited the first chicane. Wow, that was so close. But you can see there. Now we can actually look at that battle for third place. It is closed up pretty quickly. Kuntz, after his spin at the exit of the forward chicane, has really closed that gap massively onto both Ward and Walker for the battle for third in this stint here. So Walker's just fending off from Ward. You know, Walker's coming off after a really nice campaign in the Formula Trackstars season. His first full-time Formula Trackstars campaign for WRT Motorsports, and is putting on a great performance for the Van Wall entry in car 964, and then Race Pick and Ward doing himself a really good job in fourth place. As we said, we're not so sure where these positions are going to be at the end of it. So, like we said, it's all just full send for the drivers, and really just try and get whatever you can. Try and put as much gap as you can on your drive on your competitors, and just see where you end up. But right behind, not too far behind, is Dalswell in car 32. Yet again, another driver goes for an inside move, sticks a nose in on Walker. That faces Walker a little bit on the exit of Indianapolis, going towards Arnage. Walker got really phased there. He wasn't expecting that from Ward. It's a little bit of a characteristic that Ward has, but you know, I guess you could say in a good way. You know, really just try to throw the nose in and just say to yourself, "Hey, you know, I'm here. You know, if I put my nose here and I'm all alongside you, you're going to have to expect me to take that corner," because my goodness, that was so close between Ward and Walker.
That's a ballsy place to try and overtake. I mean, you're coming out of the fast left-hander at, you know, well over 300 kilometers an hour, and suddenly slamming on the brakes. You got to keep it straight. You got to get it slowed down, all at the same time. Which, you know, for anyone who knows how to trail brake, that is very tricky stuff to do. If you lock up the brakes for a second, you're going to be going into a spin, and then into the gravel, and likely into a competitor as well. But yeah, no, great car control there. And Racepick has done it. He's ahead now, is he? Yes, yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, it looks like he got ahead of him. So yeah, so Ward has actually got ahead of Walker there. So he must have done it before the forward chicane, or at least through the Corvette curves. Yeah, so we go back onto the replay. Yeah, it looks like he did it well before the forward chicane there. So very nice move there by Ward. Got it done. And yeah, kind of spooked him in a way going through Indianapolis, so maybe lost a little bit of confidence in that 964, but the confidence is riding high for Ward and car 69, really just trying to make anything work for that 69 car, just to try and get them some sort of advantage, to try to get them some sort of pace, and really try to move themselves up the field, because it's really important when it comes to that overall standings at the end of the day. So Ward's really going to be putting his head down, putting the hammer on, getting the cap on backwards, stocking himself up on some Red Bull or Monster or whatever people like these days when it comes to energy drinks, or Prime apparently.
Prime? I haven't heard of that. No, I've heard of V and Red Bull. Those are absolute classics. But yeah, that series of corners anywhere through there to do an overtake, that's incredibly skilled stuff from Ward. Great move there to get ahead of Walker. So great stuff there. And I do note as well, we did have Nattol falling off the back of Goat and Hamza quite significantly, and Hamza went into the pits as well, so already deciding to go and get a fresh set of tyres maybe and a full kit of fuel.
Yeah, I was actually wondering that with Hamza. Actually, I actually didn't see him come to the pit lane, but then when we saw it having the coverage, it was actually Hamza that came into the pit lane. I was really focused on that battle pack between Ward and Walker, but that's all been settled out, and Natu is only about 8 seconds behind Goat. But as we have a little bit of a time with our hands, with an hour and 24 to go in this last stint of the Trackstars Le Mans 8 Hour, we do bring in a special guest here, and it's going to be the Stint 3 winner and potential Le Mans winner for Car 51 for the Ice Metropolis. It is Andrew Scott in Ando 787. Good evening, mate. Well, if he's able to hear us on. Ando, you got us now? No. Okay. So once he sorts himself out, once he gets his microphone sorted out,
once the airplane returns from 78,000 feet back into radio reception range, I'm sure we'll have him on stream.
Absolutely. But yes, we go through. Obviously, Lansdale did get ahead of Justin 9:30 very easily on the Mulsanne straight. So Lansdale just keeping his head down, making that Corvette work in a straight line, and showing that dominance that the Corvette has in the straight line speed, as well as that Porsche 911 throughout the whole corners, the whole series of corners around this track. And then DP Mario not far behind as well, so he's still playing a good game here. Sticking behind Justin and as well as Lansdale. It's all about, and it's also very important when it comes to the fuel strategies as well. Seeing what fuel everyone is on as they make their pit stops for the first time and this last stint. So hopefully now Ando's joined us back in the commentary booth. Can we hear you now, Ando?
Oh, that's unfortunate, that is. You can hear the occasional click, but I don't think we've quite got him back yet.
Alright, well, hang on, while I sort all that stuff out, and while I try to make sure everything's all good on his end. Pretty sure I've got everything all set up for him, so fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But as we say, it's very important for the drivers when it comes to that first stint, especially for Lansdale. Even though he's got himself a good gap over the likes of Justin and the other driver in DP Mario, it's all about who is better on tyres, who's better on fuel, who's better in the long runs, because we haven't seen Lansdale so far. We've seen Justin, we've seen DP Mario, but we just don't know what Lansdale can do in the long run.
Yeah, he could pull a rabbit out of his hat for all we know. He's looking low on fuel, and the tyres are looking reasonably beat up for the position they are, as we do see Lee start to make his way through the blue flag traffic. But yeah, Tyler could be a little bit of a dark horse here. He's obviously got some speed, and the whole MSR team, hats off to them, barring some really unfortunate disconnects and spins here and there. It's been really, really good in terms of the speed overall, so hats off to the MSR team so far in the Corvette, putting on a bit of a show for us in the GT3 class.
Absolutely. So hopefully now, he's now joined back into the stream. Ando, have you got us now?
Hello boys, can you hear me?
Hey, there we go. We've got him. Alright, hopefully...
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. And hopefully we can have let us know in the comments from everyone watching the stream if we can actually hear Ando's voice being broadcasted. But now we've got you here, Ando. big congratulations on that third stint, mate. It's absolute class, as always. As George and I always say, you always put on a great show. No matter what series or whatever car you're racing, you always seem to put on a good show. But you know what? This became very last minute for you guys. So just let us, if you want to let the viewers know, like actually what was the story behind your appearance here at Le Mans. We'd be very excited to hear what happened in car 51.
Yeah, I just got a message from Sharky last Sunday for quali. Last minute he had someone in the team pull out, so he was just desperate, I think, and I was just sitting at home on standby on call for work and twiddling my thumbs, so I was happy to jump on and, well, first of all, buy the car. I didn't own the car, so I had to buy the car and get in it and chuck his tune on it and come up to speed. And I didn't quite come up to speed. I set a half decent lap in the quali for them, and fortunately, the two boys with me managed to set blistering times and put a pole for us. So that's how it came about. I was just asked by Sharky because he had a last minute withdrawal.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did see there he was actually messaging me, trying to talk to one of my guys to see if they were one of my drivers to see if he was actually going to, if they were interested in racing for his entry. And yeah, he was a little bit in scrambles there. He was a little bit, and also a little bit uncertain of like where he would stand before the event actually started. Obviously for personal reasons that we don't really want to bring up on the stream, but as well, like he came back, he's back in the car and finishing off the last stint for you guys, and it's definitely a potential victory for ISA Esports. And not only it's going to be and it's going to be the first title that we're going to ISA Esports, so, and you've definitely contributed to that massively.
Yeah, happy to help the boys out. I've known Benjo and Kev Renegade from ISA from way back in my starting days. We were actually gridline teammates together before they branched out and formed ISA. So happy to help the boys out. And it was a very last minute thing, but we did manage to get some good quality practice and strategizing in during the week. And these guys, Kurama and Sharky, are just lightning in this car. They're absolutely phenomenal. I can't keep up with them, but we've managed to just put together 3 stints, or 3.5 now, relatively clean stints, and we look like we're sitting in a good spot.
Yeah, very impressive drive from all you guys, and I'm sure, like I said, despite what might have been a slight 11:59 call up, you guys have clearly done the work, and you're just showing great pace. I think Sharky? No, it was Kurama, I think it was, in a different car who'd done a 3:24. But to be even close to that 3:27s, 3:28s, that's still unbelievably good pace. So my hat's off to you and the team. Hopefully you guys can bring home a win, eh?
Yeah, I'm happy with that pace that I set. To be honest, I was just happy to have a clean race. I got home this morning from a work trip, so I haven't driven the car for about 4 days, and I'd actually forgotten how to drive the car. So I had a little nap this morning when I finished my night shift, and then I got up and just did an hour in the car and re-taught myself how to drive it, and I'm just managed to have a clean stint. So. Yeah, there's a couple of tricks with this car on how to drive it, how to set it up tune-wise. I don't know if you guys have talked about the battery in this thing. It does deplete, but there is a bit of a trick to make it last as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, we haven't touched on the battery too much, and it is actually a really good point to bring up, because that can make the difference between, it can really reduce your overall race time if that's managed well. Obviously, it's worth seconds on the lap if you can have that recharging nicely. So I don't want you to give away any trade secrets here, but I'm guessing it has something to do with. I'm not gonna make any serious guesses here.
There's a harvesting technique. Let's leave it at that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yes. It does deploy. The battery deploys between 120 and 250 clicks, and then it harvests under braking. So. Yeah. There are techniques in order to keep that battery as long as possible. There's, as a rightful braker, I just couldn't keep it for the whole race, but I managed to keep it for a decent amount of time. I've probably given a bit away there in saying that, but it is worth about 3 seconds a lap. If your battery's depleted, you're in the hole for about 3 seconds of lap time. So it is in your interest to make it last as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, this is some of the big difference between the other Group 1 cars and the Group 1 make car that we've decided on for the Le Mans 8 Hours is the battery is, in some cases, deploys a little bit slower, deploys a little bit better, but yeah, I mean, I would say it's akin to warming up the brakes a little bit. I can imagine as a right braker that would be
bit of rearward brake bias would help too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, load up the rears.
I've noticed that in the old car as well, in the TS 050. That you throw the brakes bias all the way to the rear. It definitely helps with that brake management and the battery saving as well. I was a little bit. It's a little bit quicker than this car. You're obviously noticing. I think there was a lot of heavy downforce on that older spec Toyota LMP car compared to this car. So I don't know if you've driven both cars, Ando, but I don't know. Do you notice the difference between the two LMP ranges?
No, I haven't tested them side by side like that, so I couldn't speak as to how they are different. But obviously, this newer model, it's actually a very fun car to drive, even on hards. But it goes well. But I can't say how that differs from the older model. But suffice to say, they're both hybrids. They both appreciate a little bit of battery care, a bit of battery hygiene while you're driving them.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Yeah, and I talked to my teammate in Punz, because he's driven both. Like obviously one of them on GT Sport before he jumped over to GT7, and he noticed a big difference between the two setups. And he's finding it a little bit tricky just to get his head around this car so far, but sitting nicely third overall in this fourth stint. So a little bit of work to do for car 32. Obviously, as we said earlier in the broadcast, the MSR cars really struggled so far in this 8-hour endurance event, but for you guys, it's the complete opposite. Just from the start of the checkered flag, of the green flag, up until now, we're about an hour and 13 to go, and you guys are sitting pretty up the front, looking to set yourself up as the team that took victory at Le Mans.
Apart from getting tangled up with a stray Porsche there in stint 1, we've had a clean race. Yeah, we've had a clean 8-hour race so far. Fingers crossed.
Yes, I was wondering when that might come up. Yes, that stray Porsche might have been driven by yours truly.
Jig to the right, jig to the left, jig to the right again. A bit of a do-si-do.
Yeah, it was right. I was losing grip here and there, and then suddenly found myself trying to get out of the way of an LMP car, which was the wrong decision to make. Out of turn 19, I think it was, or turn 18, and unfortunately I got right in the way of Sharky, which I hope that didn't affect you guys too much, but you guys recovered very quickly from that. So
suffice. He's got a point to make this race. Let's leave it at that. Let's put it that way, because he saw a bit of red mist there for a little while, and he's definitely out to prove a point now in this stint. And as we can see. And just a little tidbit, he's actually got a little bit of a side bet going on with our teammate Karama as to who can get the best lap time as well. So I think it's about a 24.4 or 24.3 that he's looking to beat. So watch out for him on low fuel and fresh tyres towards the end. He's going to have a proper crack at getting a 23, guys.
Well, we'll definitely note that. Okay, he's in the low 25s now, and I think it is a 24.2, I think it was.
Something like that.
Yeah,
but he's really, there's a bit of there in our little team, and he's been counselled. We've told him to just bring it home, mate. Just bring it. No need for big risks, but he's a race driver through and through, so he wants those bragging rights, and he's really got his heart set on a 23 today.
We're just seeing him go past the 110 car of CBR Racing, so he'll be making sure to get clear of that car as soon as possible.
We just got confirmation. It's a 3-minute 24.257 set by Karama. So he's got 8 tenths to find, does Sharky. So work to do, especially it'll come down to that last stint, compared on a low fuel, trying to save.
Yeah, definitely. these cars don't like being above 80% fuel. They really pick up lap pace once they get down around 75% fuel load or less. It's really quite interesting, actually. I think it's got something to do with how the battery gets deployed and the power to weight ratio, while the battery's being deployed. But you can pick up 2 seconds a lap once you've got the fuel load down. But he's going to have to save his battery. He's going to have fresh tyres, and he's going to have some clear space as well. So good luck to him if he has a go at it. Let's fingers crossed he doesn't bin it while he's having a go at it.
Nah, he's got position 3 only 4.3 seconds behind him. So all these top 3 guys doing some really impressive times in these cars. So everyone's clearly got the little strategies nailed down to make sure they're harvesting properly and getting the power down track. It's very impressive, and hats off to all of them. It's just pace is just incredible.
Woody's pretty good at looking after his battery, actually. He's actually harvesting a bit better than us, I think. You might want to jump on board with him and see the state of his battery. But Sharky's looks like he's down around a third battery there now. But Woodsy...
He's about just over half battery. Was saving half battery, but he's I thought he was about to come to the pit lane. He's going to do one more lap. Won't be able to make the hour mark, unfortunately. Did you guys ever actually think about trying to go for just the one stop, like especially just drive around for an hour, like on one stint, one set of tyres, and
definitely.
Or was it actually really tricky to achieve?
Yeah, no, it's actually I think a 2-stop or a 3-stop for us. So we were never going to try the 1-stop, I don't think. Or maybe it was actually. So, but it just too slow. Yep. You're giving away 4 seconds a lap plus just by short shifting or fuel mapping. So I think the pit stop around here was 28.5 we measured. So the extra stop is the way to go. Just not. You can't quite eke out more than about 12, maybe 13 laps from a tank without losing significant time, big time.
No. Yeah, we were talking about this, and it's the same with the GT3 class as well. You could definitely do an hour in the GT3 car, but you'd be switching to fuel map 6, you'd be lifting and coasting, and at the end of the day, if you're going to lose 4 seconds on track per lap because you're fuel saving, well, that's 20 litres of fuel that you can put in the car. So you're better off just jumping the pit stop. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. Maybe if the refuel rate was 3 litres a second, but at 5 litres a second, fuel's pretty cheap. So you might as well just pin it to the wall and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So save a bit here and there where you can, but nothing significant.
Absolutely, and we saw Punts just jump into the pit lane, so he's not doing the 1-stop. So he looks like he's just about to be battling it out between Waters. See if we can catch a battle between third place. He just comes out behind him. He's just 1.6 behind him. So, but on fresh tyres and almost a full tank of fuel there. So he'll be looking for a good stint. And after putting on some fresh set of boots for car 32, just racing right in that 32, see how high up they can get up the field. But thanks for jumping in the commentary box, Ando, and hopefully you'll be watching with nerves and just trying to tell Jacques, you want to go for that fastest lap, but please just bring it home.
Just bring it home, please. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
All right. Well,
all right, guys.
You so much. Thanks for joining us, Ando, and enjoy the rest of the broadcast.
Cheers, guys. Keep up the good work.
Take care, mate. Cheers.
Bye.
So as we saw there, Punts just came out of the pit lane. He's just losing a bit of time there. Got a little bit held up by traffic there by one of the Porsches. As we see down the field there, we saw Severi facing the wrong way and just loses that position to Rudzi. So at the end of the first chicane, Severi just loses out. Let's see if we can catch the replay. Actually, we will have a replay, so that is awesome. So not awesome for Severi's case, as he just plans it a little bit too much. And the grip wasn't there for Severi, unfortunately, and picking up some front splitter damage. And that car 115 has been in the thick of wars here. It hasn't really been showing too much pace up the front. It had some good stints in that first stint and the second stint, but just unfortunately for Severi in stint 3 and 4, it's just not working the way as planned for CP Motorsports. While one car could potentially be taking out GT class overall line honours, the other one unfortunately is going to be sitting at the rear of the field, just ahead of the cars that disconnected in this car 110 and car 45. So very unlucky on Severi's end, but hopefully now now, we might be able to. We might be able to see if we can get another driver into our Discord chat. We're trying to see if we can get contact with Kurama. So if I know he's in the chat. He's active on the chat in the. His contact has been made massively. So before we get that, there's car 110 and car 69 there. So what has happened here is looks like he's just running his line here.
Yep.
And it looks like Waters just didn't see it at all. He just thought he was going to get out of the way a little bit quicker. But as he approached Indianapolis, that is a little bit bad timing there. I can never tell who is to blame there in that sense. You know, GT cars have their right of way, but the LMP cars need to try and get out of their way as quickly as possible. And now with front splitter damage and Punt's right behind him on fresh tyres and a clear mind ahead of him, he wants to try and get past Waters as quickly as possible to try and take third place. And I know you as a team boss and the team boss for that car there, you'd be absolutely fuming with the LMP car.
Absolutely, it does go both ways, of course. So I'm not going to be too biased in what I say now, of course, and no anger, of course, towards Racebig at all. But it's a tricky one, right? You know, when you know that a GT3 car is going to have to turn in, they are going to stick to their line at the end of the day. And unfortunately, my driver there, Revs, Robert Rice, has just gotten on the wrong end of that little battle there. So I'm not going to comment too much there. But that's definitely ruined our little race there for the 110 car, no matter what. But
a little bit unlucky there. Yeah, but damage there for. Yeah, absolutely. So there's damage for Ward after he made contact. You know, he only got a little bit of damage, but for Reds, and he's just trying to get into the pit lane. It just goes from bad to worse, unfortunately, for the CBR racing team in car 110. It's just hanging out there, and he's actually been teleported back onto the track there. So I think that's definitely the race over for Revs, and it looks like they've just retired the car in car.
Yeah, I've just heard from our pit lane. Yeah, I've just heard from our pit lane. That's terminal damage for the car, sadly. So we're going to have to retire the car for this one. So not the end we wanted for CBR Racing. We didn't have a good time in any stint, in fact. But it is what it is. We've had fun, no matter what, and we'll probably be back for the next one as well. So yeah, it is what it is for our 110 car. But we'll take that home. A little bit disappointed, but it is what it is. We've had a good time.
No, that's good to hear. Yeah, yes. Hopefully there might be a little bit of words after, maybe just from some of the drivers, and just to see what they think of it, and essentially, whether an incident report or stewards will be needing to look at that. We'll find out very shortly. But in due time, as we have our eyes on car 51 at the helms of Fish, also known as Sharky, the fast teenager that's just come out of nowhere, the kid that's on the rise in the Australian and New Zealand League Racing Series, has come to fruition, has come to play here at Trackstars Racing Series for this endurance campaign. We also have another driver from that team joining us here in the Discord channel. He's actually come on just for a little bit of a guest appearance. It is actually ETA Kurama, the local boy, here in France, and it's a big good evening to you, Kurama.
Yep. Good evening to you all, guys.
Yeah. Hopefully, if anyone can let us know in the YouTube chat below that we can actually hear Kurama, as that'll be greatly appreciated. I was trying to say in the stream, I was just trying to pronounce your name. Is it actually do you say Dieu as your name, as your surname?
Yep, Dieu. Because I'm French actually, and so yeah, we pronounced it Dieu.
To Dieu. Okay, awesome. And first off, saying big congratulations in your second stint. Winning at Le Mans and winning at your home track. And usually, obviously it's not the real thing, but but when you get a win at your home track, it always means something special. It means for us, especially when it comes to Bathurst, when you win a race at Bathurst, it always means so much because it's our home track. But for you, especially around Le Mans, it might make it that little bit extra special for you.
Yeah, it does, especially because I did a league with actually one of my teammates, Renegade, a few months back ago, and he won the Le Mans race. So I was a bit pissed off actually, but I took great revenge there with the Hypercar, and hopefully it was really such a relief to win with the 51 car on my home track.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was a really strong stint for you guys. Like the race that you guys had was absolutely incredible. You know, you just led the way. The fast lap time after lap time. You know, fastest lap after fastest lap was absolutely incredible. No one could catch you. Not even we had the likes of Jimmy Lee and Jackson Austin catching up to you, but unfortunately, they were just nowhere near close to you guys. And you know, for that 51 car in any hands, whether it's yours, Scott's, or Fisher's hands, it's absolutely incredible. The car just sticks to the ground. It's well planted. I haven't seen too many major mistakes from anyone. Like you guys have got this car well down pat, well before this event.
Yeah, definitely. Sharky have done a perfect job for setting up the car. He found such a really perfect tune. We've got a really good top speed. I believe on my 24 I reached 342 on the middle straight.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely a big advantage here.
That's some incredible speed, and welcome in, mate. And so the question from my side would be, what kind of preparation do you go through on your side when it comes to learning someone else's setup? When it comes to adjusting that setup, maybe for your own needs, or suggesting things going back to the car, what's the process that you go through?
So actually, I tested the setup a few days before the quali, and I pointed that being on controller, I needed a bit more front end than Sharky. So I adjusted a bit the setup to have more steering power. And it turns out it really worked well for me. After that I just done a few runs, just a few sessions with the guys to collect data, you know, fuel consumption, battery consumption, anything. So yeah, that's pretty much how we prepared for the event.
That's very good, and it shows on track as well with the strong performance that you guys have put in here today at Le Mans, and being right up there in top of class. It does show the skills that you guys have brought to the table. So how does it compare for you on controller with these cars? It's very tricky, the timing involved in where you turn in, where you lift off, where you brake, how much you brake. How does that factor into your performance when it comes to using the controller?
Actually, I've always been racing with a controller on either F1 games or GT games, like GT Sport. So I'm quite used to it. But yeah, I would say that most of the time we are losing time in really fast transitions, like at the end of the lap. But mostly we have a slightly better traction out of the corners, so we can explore it a bit earlier than Will. But and we also have a better counter steering. So yeah, it's quite different from driving with the wheel. So obviously I had to make some change on the setup, but yeah, I would say it's not really a big difference between wheels and pad at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, at least the main thing I always take notice of between the variations between all technologies with the controller and the wheel is definitely the tyre wear usage. The tyre wear on the controller is always at its highest. You know, obviously with the cars here all running on racing hards, no soft tyres or medium tyres are for this event. You know, obviously, and for us being on the hard tyres, it's not really a big thing. But could you actually notice, like some of your stints where when you were actually losing time, not just because of maybe lapse of concentration or fatigue, but is it just mainly because of the tyre wear effects from drivers around you?
Actually, not really, because as you said, being on hards, we weren't really concerned about tyre wear. The main thing I did see that was different from Sharky's stint is that I actually saved my battery more. He ran out of battery around an hour left, so and I ran out of battery around 40 minutes left, so I actually conserved my battery better than him.
Yeah, exactly, and we heard there from Ando as well that he was actually saving a lot of battery, and then also with Dan Wood in the CP entry car 18, he saved a lot more battery, and he's still got plenty of.
Yeah, definitely. We did figure it out that
Sharky.
yeah, Sharky lost on the first stint. Sharky lost a big amount of battery on the formation lap.
Yep.
So because it turns out that when you're going 160, even in 7th gear, you're using batteries. So
Yeah.
Sharky didn't brake at all during the formation lap, but I did. So I started with 99%, and he started with 91%. And after 2 hours, that makes a really big difference.
Oh, absolutely, and like that's always the thing when it's a formation lap. When you are like trying to get yourself ready for the long race ahead, you just literally just ride in the brakes. It's always a technique that I always did in the 2021 Trackstars Endurance campaign.
Yeah,
But essentially you just got to ride the brakes, so you can still save fuel, put it on lean fuel 6, ride the brakes, still make the tires warm, and then as soon as it gets to the race start, take the foot off the brake, and then just put it back into fuel mix 1, and then off you go. So yeah, it is an art. Like, it is an art just to try and save techniques. If drivers don't actually know it, it does become very tricky. Like you said, when it hits the 160, even in 7th gear, you're trying to save fuel, but it's still depleting battery.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and we actually figured this out. I figured this out like during Schalke stint, because I was doing a bit of training, a warm up, and I actually saw that we were losing battery on the formation lap. So yeah, we just saw that during the race.
yeah. It's interesting, like, because you are a Frenchman, and this is your home track. Actually, I'm actually curious enough to see. How far away are you from the circuit itself?
Actually, I don't live in France anymore. I
okay.
moved to New Caledonia almost 2 years ago.
Ah, right.
But when I was living in France, I was like 100 kilometers away from the track.
No way. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Epic. I have to interrupt just for a second because we do have rain on the track, gents.
Oh, we do actually. Yeah, I did see it on the track map indicator there. The lights are on by some of the drivers there. You can see that it's getting a lot darker. The race actually was forecasted as overcast at the end of that 3rd stint, but we actually didn't think there was going to be rain coming. So keep an eye out here, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a spicy finish for the last stint of the Trackstars Le Mans 8 Hour as we cut on board with Hamza trying to make a move on Lansdale on fresher tyres. Won't be able to make a move here coming through the Ford chicane. As we can see, the rain is actually intensifying a little bit there as Hamza's actually come into the pit lane. A little bit of lag on his end. And I'll tell you what, George, here, the meter's actually going up past the first bar. And we are going to be seeing some wet weather racing here for the first time here in Trackstars Racing Series for the Le Mans 8 Hour.
We are squarely in intermediate, and if the rain continues to come down, it is going to be in wet conditions soon.
Oh my
goodness.
This
is going to bring an absolute random factor into the race today on all levels, be it Hyperclass or the GT3 class. And Shirama, I guess I should ask, have you guys practiced with the intermediates or the wets yet?
So we actually did, but it turns out on the pad, I'm glad I haven't any rain because it was just undrivable. But yeah, Sharky has been doing some practice on the inters and full wet. So
there you go.
Yeah, we're quite confident even for the rain.
Yeah, absolutely. As we can see on the back straight here, yeah, the rain is still on, but if we try to go on board with one of the drivers, I think it may have actually stopped raining a little bit. Yeah, I can actually see that from the windscreen of Lansdale's car, the rain has actually stopped, or at least it's not raining on that side of the track here. So interesting. Maybe some drivers are just overreacting, or maybe just thinking fast and thinking, like we can see some wet weather on the track. But it is going to take a long time to clear up here. As we can see some cars there, Goat and Lansdale really struggling to get the cars around the first chicane. As we can see now, Sharky's in the pit lane with just over 50 minutes to go. We'll see if Wood actually follows him. But I'm actually seeing, but I am actually seeing on that windscreen there is no drops at all. So yeah, the track is wet, but is it actually going to be wet enough to be putting on those intermediates? We saw Goat there on wet tires, and that's a bit of a brave call there for Goat to be on wets.
Very brave, because the track can dry up very, very quickly. It's a big circuit. I don't know how many kilometers there is here. I think it's well over 7 or 8 kilometers in tracks. We do see Nathol getting a little bit sideways. He's on the racing hard tires, so he's not having a good time out there.
Yeah, and Wood's actually coming to the pit lane right now. As you can see, Natu Lee really struggling to get that car stable around the track there. I think he was just giving way to James Lee there. I think so. So yeah, he's just giving way to the hypercar driver in Lee from Black Rose Racing. But as mentioned in the comments there by Jarman, there could be more on the way. We just don't know yet, so we'll have to find out very shortly. We can't, unfortunately for us, we can't see weather radars, and we can't flick through the HUD to see if there's actually rain on the way.
Exactly.
But I think, but from what I'm seeing, I don't think it's actually increasing. We can see Hamza's actually on the intermediates now, really struggling to go around the corner, but it looks like it's just stopped. It must have just been a bit of a passing showers.
Yeah, I've learned from bitter experience that if you knee-jerk reaction to putting on a set of inters and wets when there's something on the horizon, or if it starts to rain on track, you're the one that ends up getting caught out. You're better off just trying to nurse it around on a pair of slick tires, whatever you've got on, and see what happens, because the weather in Gran Turismo is totally dynamic. We could have this burst of rain and that be it. Goes back to dry conditions, and with the faster LMP class on track, you'll find that water gets pushed out of the way pretty quickly, the speeds that these guys are going around the track. So, like the wet tire runners, and this is why Goat, for his decision to go onto the wets is, I'm not going to say it's questionable, but I think he might end up regretting it if the track continues to dry, because you can drive on a hard tire in under that first bar that you see there. So under about 33% wet conditions, you can still drive quite easily on a pair of slick tires.
Yeah, and obviously these drivers have better knowledge than us. They can see on their radars, as we saw Walker jump on medium tires, and that's really interesting. Natu Lee's come into the pit lane, so whether they see more rain forecast, we don't know, because we don't have the information that the drivers have at their disposal. But we'll see if actually Lansdale actually comes into the pit lane, because if he doesn't and it's not raining, this could really benefit him for not just the stint victory, but it could also help him out, try and get some sort of pride into that team. And he's actually stayed out, so obviously he's seeing something that maybe other drivers are not. So someone from the MSR camp is telling him, saying, I think that it was only a quick burst of rain and that's it, and there's no more coming through. We just don't know yet. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what comes out of what plays out in this field here, because everyone is on intermediate tires, and Natu Lee's just picked up a 3-second penalty on the entry there. And I will say, just while I've got Karama here, I know you drove in the night stint. Is it actually how hard is it actually to see the pit entry in the night time?
For me, it wasn't that hard, because I adjusted my monitor's setup, the settings to be really, really bright, so wasn't really too concerned about this. But before I did this, it is actually really, really dark. So yeah, I did tap the wall a few times.
Yeah,
practice.
You wouldn't have been the first one. Everyone's done it here, and look at this. Look at this, George. And the water's gone. It's literally just evaporated just so quickly. So those that are on intermediate tires, all wet tires, have played a really bad call here, and they've they're stuck it out here. And I think the real beneficiaries, especially in the GT class, is going to be Lansdale, and he's up into 8th place. Could potentially be taking the lead at the end of this stint.
Yeah, I'd love to see the gap now between him and the 7th position, because I suspect that's going to be rapidly dropping. And there's still a few, look at it on the back straights. We've got still a little bit of water, but it's underneath that 33% mark. And that means that the hard tires are perfectly capable. In fact, the wets, unless you're above 50% wetness on track, the wet tires are actually so slow compared to a slick tire. So Goat here, he's on the wet tire, he's burnt a pit stop. He's on high fuel.
Sorry, but the rain is increasing now on this back straight, and it's a hard one. It's a hard one, this circuit, because one part of the track it's bone dry. As soon as you get here through the Mulsanne corner, it is absolutely wet, and you can see there Lansdale really struggling to get around the corner there. And unfortunately for Lansdale, what we thought was praising him for what could have been a great strategy has all turned around.
Yeah,
and in the wrong direction.
Sector 1 and 2, genius strategy call. Sector 3 and 4, total nightmare. Because it is above the 50% mark that I was just talking about, and there it goes! Oh no!
And it's just like in the real world Le Mans, we saw a lot of cars pirouetting around there, even on the wet tyres, they were really struggling. But let's have a look, he's not even over, he's over 200 Ks as he gets through the little kink there.
Just watch the bar on the right there, on the left there as well, because it's just at the point that he spun, he hit a wet patch.
Yeah, it looks like he's just had a disconnect there, unfortunately. Unfortunately for some of the drivers there, they are really, really struggling out there. And now it's actually going on to the wet part of the stage as well, George. This is spicing up here.
This is spicing up.
Yeah, we'll let you go. We'll let you go, Karama. Thanks for joining us in the commentators booth. But we'll make sure we get you guys, keep you guys warm. Keep you guys with keep you dry at least, and maybe you guys can coach Sharky around this part of the track where it's absolutely treacherous conditions.
Yep. And thank you guys for having me, and I hope the race will continue to go really well, and it's getting spice up, so going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us there, Karama, and hopefully we get to see you at the end taking victory.
Absolutely.
Yep. See you guys. Catch you later.
See you, mate. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
Nick, this is getting spicy beyond belief. We had in parts of the track now above 66%. That's getting into the wet condition territory. That's heavy wet.
Yeah.
So this is suddenly a genius call for anyone on the wet tire.
Oh my goodness, and yeah, it just keeps chopping and changing. Now it's underneath that second bar. It's perfect for intermediate tires, and then it spikes up at the end of the Ford chicane going onto the pit straight. And yeah, my good, I this is seriously this is the first. I think this is the first time I've actually seen like a Gran Turismo race where you could see one part of the racetrack was bone dry, like literally bone dry, and like you called it, coming through to the Mulsanne corner, it was absolutely treacherous. And then going to Indianapolis where we saw Lansdale pirouetting the car, and I can't believe that I've never seen anything like this before on a Gran Turismo race. I think this is actually the first time I've actually seen like a proper changing conditions and a really proper, parts of the track where it's bone dry, the next part it's wet, and then bone dry, and then wet. And my goodness.
Yeah. No, it's
unbelievable.
brilliant.
Sharky's off! Sharky's off! So something's drastically happened to Sharky there on going through the Corvette curves. Oh, he's lost the rear end, he's spun the car. I don't think he's picked up any damage for the thank goodness for Sharky.
What a save!
A great save there by Sharky. He was right up against the barrier there, and no damage at all on car 51. So I think thankfully we got Karama out of the chat so he could talk to his teammates, just calm him down a little bit. But wow, what a change of events here, George. And this could spice up not only this stint, but if something happens to Sharky, you could potentially spice up the overall standings.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, Dan Wood now, he'll be thinking, okay, time to get into action. And I think Dan Wood's on the Inters, so they're both on the intermediate tire. They're both going to be struggling a little bit on parts of the circuit. But I mean, how interesting is this? You've got correct me if I'm wrong, but 8 or 9 kilometer circuit here. You've got about 3 kilometers of it that's under the dry area that could be good for slicks. The rest of it is intermediate, and the other half, another 33% is inters, and the other half of it is wet conditions. So how do you manage that as a driver? This is the tricky thing. This has just been churning around in my mind. We talked about this earlier about adjusting over a 2-hour stint. You're 1 hour, 20 minutes into a stint. You're feeling the effects of exhaustion. You're now looking for a dry line if you're on inters. You're looking for a wet line if you're on wets. And you're praying that it doesn't get any drier on any part of the circuit throughout the next 40 minutes, which it inevitably will.
Yeah, but you could see there with Wood, he was actually searching for the wet line. So he was literally just putting his car off the racing line just to try and find some sort of grip on his intermediates. As we see all the drivers there from 1st to 4th place, all on the intermediate tyres. Lee is the only driver looks to be on the wet tyre. I think, and actually, I think Walker was on the wet tyre as well from memory.
Yeah.
So between Lee and Walker, both on wets. They're really just hoping that it just literally downpours and then they'll be the ones cheering and really trying to put themselves forward. But that's really turned some heads around in the ISA garage there with Sharky's moments at the through the Porsche curves, as we see Walker trying to potentially go for an outside move and going into the inside through the Porsche curves, through the chicane rather. Looks like a little bit of contact made between the two drivers, but looks like Lee's just still come out ahead of Walker there. Let's see if we can find some sort of action there as we go on board with Lee as it goes through onto that pit straight. Looks like Walker had the inside line there, just maybe outbrakes himself. That's a little bit unlucky there for both drivers there. I think he just got a little bit. Maybe Walker just must have understeered through the Dunlop chicane, and then unfortunately that just may have sent Lee off. But thankfully for the drivers, no drivers are hurt. No drivers got compromised whatsoever. But look at this battle pack has really closed up with Wood. I know Dan Wood as a driver. He loves wet racing, and I know the cameraman in Jump Dallas can agree with me as well that Dan Wood loves wet weather racing, and this is where he thrives. And he's really closed up onto the back end of Sharky. If despite that mistake, he was really catching him, and we're going to be looking for a great race finish between these two drivers, the ISA Metropolis in car 51, piloted by Sharky, and then the 18 CP Motorsports entry in Dan Wood battling it out for first place. As there is a bit of lap traffic ahead, and looks like Sharky's going to go around the outside. Wood goes onto the grass. Oh, so close. This is some great racing here, ladies and gentlemen. I want to see if we can catch that guy, at least on the exterior. What happened there? Sharky got held up by the It's Racing driver. He's really compromised, and there comes Wood around the outside, temporarily almost goes for a lead. Sandwiches just to 930. How none of these guys got contact or sent into the barrier, I do not know. But this is some fantastic racing here, George.
Oh no, we've got an error with the GT7 app. Oh dear. Okay, well we'll try and get back in as soon as possible. But crikey, what an absolute move! That was very it was Heikkinen Schumacher-esque there. And I wouldn't have wanted to beat Justin. I mean, talk about hold your line. Just don't do anything, please. And they drove around, and absolutely incredible. They didn't come together. That is absolutely astonishing. And confirmation from the chat as well. 13 kilometers long is Le Mans, so a little bit longer than I was thinking. But crikey, what a shake-up!
My goodness, that even that little interview that we had with Karaman is so close to live so close to Le Mans there. That's actually That's actually so cool. It's like when you have someone in Australia that lives so close to Bathurst. You just every year you go. Whether it's for 12 hour or for the Bathurst 1000, I'm guessing for you guys and maybe New Zealand is maybe in the Highlands or something. Racetrack or Hampton Downs or Pukekohe.
Even Ruapuna down in Christchurch, and it's just absolutely brilliant, isn't it? I think there's a couple of streamers that live quite close to Bathurst, and they regularly stream there. And I've got someone who comes into my chat who lives, I think it's about 15 kilometers from Zandvoort, over in Denmark. So it's, I'm really jealous. I wish I was that close to a racing circuit.
Absolutely, and so hopefully, fingers crossed, get ourselves back into the lobby. We do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe just the replay camera just decided to say otherwise to our streamer. So unfortunately, fingers crossed, we'll be able to get ourselves back into the lobby.
Yeah, there was actually. Go ahead. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, well, I was just about to say some water leaked into the CCTV system, or in the Canadian Grand Prix in FP1, we had a groundhog chewing on the cables. So maybe something similar has happened, and suddenly looks very dry out there, doesn't it?
It's so dry. It's dried up so quickly. What's going on here? We're seeing a few little things here where drivers are saying they're on hard tires, but they could be on intermediates. We shall wait and see. Oh no, actually some of them are still on the hard tires. At least for Justin's case, he still stayed out on the hard tires. He actually never came into the pit lane.
Right.
Doesn't look like. It looks like Hamza as well. Sharky. A bit of some interesting things going on here, so we're not too sure. Looks like Woods come out of the pit lane on a set of fresh hards, so there is. You can still see that it has been confirmed that there is still water on the track here, so maybe it dried out pretty quickly that everyone just decided to jump on the hard tires. But I'm very interested to see why Sharky's car is showing worn hards. Maybe the game just needs to settle itself in. Maybe we'll wait for everyone to at least start to cross the start-finish line.
Yeah, I think getting everyone across the line should give us an update on the situation and who's in what position and all that sort of stuff. But you're right, there's definitely still some water on track there. But it's sunnier. It's definitely sunnier.
Yeah,
Sharky fits.
Yeah, it looks like Sharky's coming to the pit lane, so that might be a graphic technicality there that we're seeing there. That it's definitely that he would have been on the intermediate tires, and yeah, it's definitely showing that he definitely would be the intermediates that he was running, not the hards, because the last time we caught him was sandwiching just a 930 as well as this going around the outside. And I still can't go past that. What an incredible move that was there by both LMP drivers, and for Justin 930 to not give any contact to any of those two drivers is absolutely incredible. It's a bit of a wet patch there. I've just caught. He saved that and a half. Well done to Dan Wood there. Caught the wet patch there on the curbing going to Ford Chicane. Wow, that was absolutely insane there. But he's coming onto the pit straight here. Will Sharky get out ahead? There is Shark. As he's just exited the pit lane, he's gone pirouetting around, so something's happened. He has. So,
I tell you, it's the exit of that pit lane. That's why they're all picking up 3 second
what got him.
Yeah, it's the only part of the circuit that hasn't dried out yet, and that has caught him out. Oh no, Sharky is gonna be mad.
Yeah, Sharky, this is not what Sharky wanted, absolutely. And now he needs to try to negotiate traffic, not just negotiating traffic, but on the wet surface as well. And this is what makes it hard. Oh, as we see some cars hopping about, and there is contact made between the LMP driver and the GT class leader. As we see now, R2 lead looking potentially to go around the outside for the lead of the LMP class. He does. Hamza's coming right behind there, but contact made between those two drivers. Oh my goodness.
Sharky's gone again.
Oh no, it's just going from bad to worse. And unfortunately for car 51, this is looking really diabolical here for car 51 in the Isometropolis entry. It's looking, I don't know, like this is really, really tricky here of what's going on or what is actually happening. We can see some drivers are still out on their outlap, some of them on the hard tyres, some of them look to be either saying they're on hards or they're on intermediates, we're not too sure. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see once the grid order settles itself up. But what we do know, potentially, is that Dan Wood is actually leading this final stint here for the Trackstars Le Mans 8 hour, and I don't know, like again, he saved the half spin there. That was absolutely incredible going into the Ford Chicane.
I've never seen someone save a situation like that. That is just incredible, because you go from what is probably 10% on the wetness on the track suddenly to it could be 60, 70, 80% on the wet, and then suddenly you're in a spin and your tires are then colder, and just incredible car control from Dan Wood there for that little bit of action. So you've got to avoid those little situations though. You can't cut the track like you used to, and it's again the thing that caught out Sharky there was that pit exit. Really gutting for him, because he was absolutely in it for a win here in stint 4, and yeah, and then also for Goat to pick up a huge 3-second penalty. I know 100% that's going to be for the exit. He would have just gotten a little bit sideways, put a tyre over that white line, and just, there we go, 3 seconds. And then to then be in contact with Sharky, and it's gone from bad to worse for both of them, sadly.
Yeah, unfortunately, like both leading this race in the early parts of stint 4, and now in that battling line of survival and really just trying to hone in a victory or trying to close in a potential class victory in both LMP and GT class respectively. But what we do know, a man that has actually got a title next to his name and has actually joined the heritage, the listed accolades of being a Trackstars champion, is our next guest in the commentary booth. Is our recent 2023 Formula Trackstars champion in Pat Trappard for Mashbuds Racing Car 45. So hopefully you can hear us on stream, and welcome along.
Alright, thank you for having me here. Been a great job watching along this time. You guys have been doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you've been watching the last few minutes, but my goodness, the action's just picked up with all the wet conditions, the variable changes in weather, and one end of the track is dry. Then we thought Lansdale was putting off a master strategy, but as soon as he gets to Mulsanne, he just makes a havoc out of it on the exit of the Mulsanne corner.
Yeah, I already had issues when I was doing my stint with the Hypercar being a little bit unpredictable with the hybrid, and I couldn't imagine how bad that would be in the wet. So.
Absolutely, but before we get into your glory in the Formula Trackstars, let's talk about your stint here. So obviously, you had a bit of a late change in the lineup, swapping from GT to LMP, and so what were your actual first initial reactions when you actually made the jump to LMP? Like, what did you see differently compared to both classes? Obviously, one of them is going to be speed and downforce, but was there a car that you actually preferred in those two categories?
The LMP is a weird one. When you first jump in it, you notice the understeer that it has, especially on corner exit with the hybrid system. Because as soon as it deploys, the car just goes straight, or it'll even snap with oversteer if you don't have it set up properly. So that just takes a long time to get used to. But once you get used to that, it can be quite a nice, consistent car. But it's very different to the GT car.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there's a little bit more work behind the scenes when it comes to setting up an LMP compared to the GT cars. But we've actually seen quite a different comparison in setup with both with the GT cars, especially with both the Porsches and the Corvette being the highly favoured cars around to this circuit. Obviously, one car being quicker on the straights and the other car being quicker through the corners. But what we've noticed as well, even the Corvettes have been picking up a lot of pace, especially in Hamza's case and Ridwan's case, just picking up a lot of good mid-corner speed and slow corners, and it was actually closing up to what was Nato and Goat in that early stint of the race. But obviously for you to drive the LMP car around this track here, it's always something special, like especially with the GR010 being the latest car added, the newest car being added to Gran Turismo 7, and obviously compared to what we were running in the 2021 series, very different car and very different styles of driving. So you've had to adapt your driving style to this car. But I guess in a way, when you stepped out of a Formula Trackstars car in the Lara SF19 and you jump into a hybrid and an LMP car, do you actually see much difference between the two categories?
It's surprising, but yeah, it's a massive difference. The cars are you could not compare them around the lap.
Oh, right, okay.
Especially at high speed, the Hypercar I think is a lot more. It moves around a lot more. It doesn't have the same peak downforce. And coming out of the slow corners with the hybrid system, it really shoots out of the slow corner. Out of the slow corners, it'll really shoot out of them, and then the hybrid system goes, and you've just got no more acceleration. So it's a very weird car to drive.
Yeah, I can imagine a bit of a struggle especially to adjust between those two things. I've had similar experience myself, especially when you run out of that hybrid and the power disappears, suddenly you feel like you're just going absolutely nowhere. So managing that can be quite tricky. Did you have any specific preparation for managing the hybrid boost power, keeping it at a reasonably high rate?
There was a bit you play around with the diff a lot. I found that the diff was a lot more important. In qualifying, I had it turned up too much with the acceleration sensitivity, and I had to lift off through Indianapolis, or else the car would just spin it. And even in the race, I thought I had it set up a lot better, and it spun on me into Indianapolis. So it can really bite you when you don't have it set up perfectly.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of incidents happening there, especially through Indianapolis. It looks on paper, you know, it's like one of the fastest corners around Le Mans, because most of the time you're taking it flat out, and maybe in the GT cars you are doing a bit of a lift off the car, maybe just tap off the brakes just to get the car turned in. But you know, it's something that we've been used to in the Formula Track Stars, with the higher downforces going flat through corners. You know, corners that you see in a GT car, thinking, oh yeah, no, you have to lift off and, you know, just brake early. But with the formulas and especially now with the LMP cars, you can go flat through the corners. It's absolutely a joy to be, you know, driving an LMP car around this track.
Yeah, definitely. When you've got the thing going and you understand it, it's a really fun car to drive. And it's also fun halfway through the stint, the battery sort of switches once it runs out.
Yeah.
And then it's a completely different car to drive again, because it's all through the rear wheels, all the battery goes through the front wheels. So then coming out of corners, it's just got so much more grip. You can even you can push it a bit more through the entry and trust that the exit will keep turning.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the dynamic adjustment between oversteer on corner exit and then this amazing grip that you get into corners once that battery flips around. That's exactly what I've driven the LMP cars a couple of times, but that's exactly what always catches me out. Is just the sudden injection of power at the rear. But you're right, as it does sort of expire a little bit, then suddenly you're in the good zone, because you can start putting in some incredible lap times. And the difference, obviously, to a more traditional high downforce car is that it's more consistent. So you can drive it in the same way over and over and over again without having to worry about, you know, adjusting for that change in battery power.
Oh yeah, 100%. What I found really weird in this car, because all the battery goes through the front wheels, not the rear, is that when it engages, it can actually really cause the car to snap. So coming out of the second chicane at the Mulsanne in practice, I was having to lift after the corner.
Yeah.
Because when the battery would engage, the thing would just snap at the front. Like, it was really bizarre.
Yeah. Full throttle and back to 50, then.
Yeah. Oh, it's so freaky. But again, once you're used to it, and you get the car properly tuned up, which Kunz managed to do an amazing job with for our car. Yeah, it's a really lovely thing to drive.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously we know, you know, like you and I know Punz very well. Like he's been absent away from the game since it actually came out in GT7, and you know his presence in the Trackstars family was missed, especially on the main series grid. And he loves his Formula Trackstars racing. He's always been one for the Formula cars, and you know next year is going to be the introduction of the SF23s, you know, as they came out only a few months ago. So you as the reigning champion of Formula Trackstars, I want to just, you know, I mean, I don't want to be biased because you are my teammate. I'm going to keep it very professional here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. But yeah, you know, like I will say, you know, even like as a teammate and as a competitor, what an absolutely dominant season you've had. The runs of victories you had in the first part of the first half of the season, and then, you know, bouncing yourself back after a few knocks in those last couple of rounds. But it really just set off the chain reaction of you getting victories and having some great battles and having some great momentum throughout the whole season. No faults on your end, so there's a big congratulations on that title win.
Yeah, thanks. On paper, it looked a lot more dominant than I think it actually was. Like, I got probably 2 or 3 wins were handed to me, like when John and Joe and both got penalties at Spa and stuff like that happened.
Yeah.
And then other races, like Watkins Glen, I won by like a second with no tyres left.
Yeah, that race was absolutely insane. I remember watching that back, and the tyres were just on your end, were just non-existent whatsoever. But yeah, even as well, like, you know, the race at Spain, for example, that was a very intense battle
yeah,
that you had there. I think that was probably more of a sweat fest for you than probably any other race that you've done.
Oh, that race was just insane. Being third place behind Jerem and Matt, and I got both those positions out of luck. Jerem got held up by a lapped car, and then Matt had some random snap of oversteer on the last corner of the last lap to lose it.
Yeah, can you believe that, George? Like it's like a Chaz Monster. What happened in 2014 at the Bathurst 1000? You don't lead a lap for the entire race, and then you see Pat just coming through onto the final corner. Matt Campbell has a bit of snap oversteer, runs onto the gravel trap, and Pat greets the checkered flag in first place.
Oh no, I mean that's the stuff of perfection right there. You just go, well, the seas have parted in front of me, and I've taken a win out of the jaws of defeat. Have I taken the victory? No, congratulations for that. That sounds like a great race to rewatch. So I might go try and find that if that's been recorded somewhere. But it's great when that happens, isn't it? And especially if that does make a big difference in terms of an overall series, which by the sounds of it, it did.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it probably was the point of the season where DP could have started making a fight back. Like, Jam was one of the most consistent drivers the whole year, just like didn't.
Yeah.
The whole first half of the season, I think his worst result was third. Like he was always up the front, so.
It was always me. It was definitely always Jerem and I, like, really having a good battle pack in those early parts of the race, and then when Jerem got close to you, it was between you guys. I was sitting in the background. It was always chopping and changing between Jerem and I, but, you know, we always knew that you were, like, the star driver. Like, you know, you had the pace, you had the raw pace. That qualifying pace that you had in your car was absolutely incredible. We always had to talk about the qualifying, you know. I'm never known to be the best qualifier in any car that I drive, and as my Trackstars Racing Series history tells, that I've never really been able to put my car in a good position for qualifying. but yeah, just that lap pace, that qualifying pace that you had, that you could put it into a race, it's absolutely incredible.
There's three kinds of drivers, isn't there? There's qualifiers, there's overall race winners, and then there's Ando. I mean, I'm just kidding. And there's guys who get it all right. That's really awesome, though. I mean, what's the trick here? Obviously, both of you guys have been in top tier teams that have done really well, not only in Trackstars but in other leagues. And as a budding team owner of myself, having been involved in a couple of incidents today and in other leagues, what do you think is the key to it? Is it the preparation? Is it the talent? Is it the overall culture of the team? What brings together a victory outside of things like luck?
It's definitely preparation's a big one. If you can have a bit of confidence, like you know what you're doing with strategy, you can just focus a bit more on just getting your marks right. You're not constantly thinking about how much fuel I have to save, what lap do I need to pit on to make it to the end. And you just take that complexity out during the race with a bit of more preparation. That definitely helps. And then also having the best setup that you can get into it makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely, and for Pat as well, like he's been part of the MSR family since the start of the Formula Trackstars inaugural season in 2020, and you know he's been racing alongside my team for so long, and for me to see him, you know, evolve from 2020 up to now, even like early signs of last year where he was actually racing for another team, we loaned him off to the then Shadon Racing team, and then you know picking up a couple of victories, I believe, in the 2022 season, and. You know, it was obvious for me just to say to him, right, you know, hopefully we can we want to sign you up for the 2023 campaign and just put MSR back on the map where we really struggled in the last season of both touring cars and Formula Trackstars, and you know we've definitely done that so far in both drivers and teams, and you could just definitely say as well the team morale this year, like the main aim has just really been focusing on that team morale and really getting everyone working together. You know, whether it's myself and Pat, Tyler in the background working with our development drivers in Division 2 and Division 3. We've got a really got ourselves a good standard on where we want to be as a team, and that's really helped out in both parties.
Yeah, that does sound like it does make all the difference, and yeah, having a good team culture and good people to drive with and to learn and upskill with, that's obviously the makings of a championship team. So, yeah, well, congratulations to you both, of course. It's absolutely epic.
Yeah, 100%. I think I also have to give a shout out to people like Kaizen as well in that team. Just made it a lot easier because there were rounds where I was struggling to find the setup, and Kaizen would help point me in the right direction. And especially towards the end, when he had those main series races, he was so good with giving me information. Like I had uni exams and stuff like that, and he was able to tell me what strategy to run and stuff like that. So that was a massive help.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. And we do have a few comments in the chat here. You know, we have Dalit Jarman actually saying Pat's win at Spain was the equivalent of Dan Weldon's winning the 2011 Indy 500. And even the man up that is leading the way. He's doing what Lewis Atkinson did in the last stint, George. He's actually he's typing and driving at the same time. I mean, the drivers are just absolutely insane. I don't know how they do it. They just throw themselves on the pause menu, just type away. And
I don't know. I've been talking about mental bandwidth this whole time. These fellows here, they've got 120% to play with. I've only ever had 100% myself, and if I start typing in chat, I suddenly find that I'm easily dropping down to 50% of focus on the race. So I don't know how they do it. They've got an extra 10-20% in the pocket somewhere. They can just pull out whenever they need it. And well, it's good for us though. We get the entertainment.
Absolutely, 100% there. You know, Lewis was providing some excellent entertainment in Stint 3, and yeah,
he's doing a Fernando Alonso in Spain. He's just watching the screens as he drives on by.
Absolutely, but yeah, as we are seeing the draw to the conclusion of this Le Mans 8-hour, with Wood leading the way ahead of Sharkey, we still think. In the background, we still think that Sharkey and Car 51 is going to be taking out the overall victory, but you know, that moment that he had in the wet conditions, and then with Wood getting past him as we unfortunately got off the air with the DC on the camera side of things, but yeah, you know, like with Sharkey and Car 51, you know, I know we always talk a lot about ISA, you know, always being an underdog team, but especially like in the Formula Track Stars and the Touring Car Championship, you know, we always see them as a very well respected team in Track Stars, but we never really see them up towards the pointy end of the track. But you know, when it comes to a one-off event like this, they bring absolutely incredible drivers. They bring star power to their lineup, and you know, it's really showing off for these guys that they're able to bring in good drivers, and they're able to, you know, say to them, you know, we might not be the strongest team in our touring cars or Formula Track Stars, but we are still here to play and we are still here to make a point.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved with the ISA esports team as well through the Sector 1 Racing League, and yeah, I have to say that the team culture they've got back there is just phenomenal. It's very supportive of each other, and yeah, you're right. You know, they're getting bigger and bigger, and they're able to pull in some really fantastic talent. Doesn't include myself, I'd say, but nonetheless, they're evolving onto the scene, and I think, you know, they've got a great future ahead, especially with results like this today.
Oh yeah, 100%. They're as a team, they're able to bring those drivers, and I think any driver that's gone there, I know Budsy went there as well, like they seem to just thrive, and I think what you're pointing on there, team culture is definitely a massive part of that, so it's great to see them doing well.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, they're here to stay. They're here to make a point, and you know, if they're going to be more or less likely to be bringing home a trophy to their cabinet, and it's going to be absolutely amazing to see, you know, finally, and the ISA team actually getting a trophy in the what we actually saw with the supercars actually last time out in Darwin. It was actually funny enough. Charlie Schwerkel for Team 18 had built a massive cabinet for them, hoping to actually be getting podiums and victories. It was actually all dusty. Nothing was there until Frosty Winterbottom actually took victory in that first race yesterday, and now they're able to put a trophy into that cabinet, and now that will be the same with ISA, with potentially winning the Le Mans.
Yeah, they're going to feel good about that. There's nothing like dusting off a few cobwebs from a readily ignored empty trophy cabinets. So that's a good place to start, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can definitely tell with with the It's Racing Esports and team, and us at MSR, CP Motorsports, Robo Sport Racing. The big four, one of the main four teams in the Trackstars Touring and the Trackstars Racing Series family. We've been pretty high on getting up some victories, but it's always great to see some other teams coming involved. We have WTC Racing, ISA Esports, and even now WRT, coming in, for the Trackstars season 2023. So it's going to be some awesome racing. The next time we have these cars coming out in 2 weeks' time for the Trackstars TS3 and TS2 series.
Pat, I've got to ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how glad are you that you didn't have to race in the rain that just came through this stint?
I'm going to say an absolute 10 because I realised after I started the second stint that I never bought the tyres.
Mine's an 11, mate. It's good stuff, mate. Yeah, it's unfortunately I wasn't able to rouse in the stints here today with CBR Racing, and we had some disconnects and some internet issues and some start issues that I think I would have liked to go into the wet a little bit, but we've had a pretty bad day out today. But congrats to everyone else's teams for sticking in there and keeping going, whether it's for the glory or not. That's our car unfortunately had to be retired, but hats off to all the teams that are sticking it out there, regardless of the result. I think that's the important thing, right? At the end of the day, just stick it out and take the honours at the end, regardless of what that looks like.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm well accustomed to just being there for the fun of it. We used to race Lemons back when it was in Australia, and that was definitely a lot more just get the car to the end and try to go for the win.
That's the real life Lemons, is it?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Good fun. We did replace a gearbox once in the middle of the race, but
oh jeez.
That was a bit interesting, but yeah, it's just you're out there, you're having fun, and even in these, like when you're not competitive, it's still a good bit of fun to run around. You get some side-by-side action, especially at a track like Le Mans. It's something special.
Absolutely. And
100% there, man. And sorry, go ahead, George.
I was just going to say, I do want to call a little bit of attention to some on-track action. We've got a battle for the top of GT3 class going on between Natal and Hamza at the moment, and the gap is continuing to close down. Just been keeping an eye on it. It's just been getting smaller and smaller, the gap between them, and now we're well under half a second, so this is starting to heat up.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and we definitely saw this battle pack at the start of the race here, George, where we saw like Natal was really struggling on the straight line speed. Well, he was actually gaining on straight line speed, but it looks like now Hamza's actually got that moved on before the second chicane. He has. So the BCG racing driver in car 14 who took victory in that first stint in the afternoon stages, looks like he could potentially be taking victory in the final stint here, and that's going to really help BCG Racing try to close up the gap to car 98, which is piloted by Ryan Tame in a Goat 13, and who has actually been a little bit of the thick of wars. They've got a bit of contact there with Sharky when it came to the phase of the dry tyre running, and really just getting into the wars with both LMPs and the GT cars, with Goat sitting now third in class, Sharky up in second in class for the moment in LMP. But it's really good to see all the drivers are still out here on track, like you said. We had our two DNFs. Unfortunately, we had the CBR racing team. Unfortunately, DNF their entry, and as well as we saw Lansdale had a disconnect after that stint that he had. Dry tyres on a wet track doesn't really work. Hey, Pat.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not.
It works. It's interesting enough. It works on a rent-a-kart in a go-kart. Like when you go arrive and driving, and especially in the wet conditions, it works so well. I don't know why, but then as soon as you put a race car on a wet track, it's just like, nah, it's completely different. I guess the big factor is power and weight.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you have 600 times the horsepower, it may make it a little bit more.
Oh, but I love driving go-karts around a wet track. It's always so much fun. It always adds more challenge to racing, and just for a bit of fun.
We'll just go to an indoor car race and tell your friend to spill some oil on parts of the track, and then really have some fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
It's good enough to tell you where it is as well, so it just catches you out in the
Yeah,
first
it just
lap.
gets you.
It just reminds me. It reminds me of that Grab. It reminds me of that Grab Tour episode on that first episode when they did the muscle cars around the old warehouse where James and Richard just threw oil on the track just to hamper class and slap time.
That's exactly right. So it's always a good bit of fun.
Yeah.
Something I want to get myself back into as well. It's been ages since I've jumped into a little go-kart, so it's always good fun. I remember thrashing my colleagues at work a couple of times in races. I go, "How do you go so fast?" I go, "Can't tell ya."
Yeah, that's right. I know the secrets behind it all. So.
Exactly.
But we're about to draw conclusion to this Track Stars Le Mans now. We'd do like to thank our 2023 Formula Track Stars champion Impact Trapper joining us in the commentary box. It's a pleasure to have you here, and it's for me as a team boss, it's great to have you up on that trophy cabinet, bringing home the glory to MSI, and also as well putting your name in the Track Stars history books as a Formula Track Stars champion. So well deserved, mate. A lot of victories came your way, and a solid drive no matter what.
Yeah, thanks so much. I just thought, Sharky had that damage the whole time? At one point, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he actually came in the pit lane. I think when he had caught damage with Goat, I don't think he came into the pit lane. I think he just negotiated around the track just to really just bring it home. Because as we heard with Kurama earlier on, he just said we were telling Sharky to bring the car home, don't go for fastest lap times, and because we wanted to try and solidify this victory for 51.
That is just insane. He's been able to stay so close to Woodsy. I had front wing damage in the thing 4 seconds off the pace, so to have front wing and front right damage, that is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows testament to what these drivers can do, behind the wheel or behind the controller for sure. But as we go through the grid, one more time, we'll check through everyone's running order. We have Dan Wood in car 18 for CP Motorsports leading the way in the final stint of the Track Stars Le Mans 8-hour event here at Circuit de la Sarthe. What was a damp track has now gone back to dry and overcast, so it's just bringing the car home for all the drivers here tonight. Or Fish, also known as Sharky, car 51, looking to trying to bring car 51 home for the glory of being victors around Le Mans in season 2023. And then we have James Lee for Black Rose Racing. So he's been a dark horse coming from out of nowhere. He's been up and down the thick of the battle in the early stages of this stint, actually being escorted wide by Ward on the opening lap and sending him into the barriers through Tetra Rouge, and he's made a stunning comeback, a remarkable comeback in this stint to put that car third place.
And we'll have Nick back in just a moment.
Just wasn't technical. No.
There we go.
There we go.
For a second there.
Yeah, sorry. Every time I see a little icon on the top right, I get a little hazard. I'm just like, oh yeah, no, my voice isn't being broadcasted. But then again, as we saw, Ollie Dalswell in 4th place, and then right behind is Ward in 5th for Robbo Sport Racing. The car 69 has been in the thick of wars from the get-go, as well as the 32. So both cars are just racing for pride. And then right down there in 6th place, the last of the LMP runners is the Van Wall entry for WRT Motorsports, car 964 in Nightwalker, finishing up in 6th place. And then the first of our GT runners in Grid 1, Hamza, in 7th place for BCG Racing car 14. And then in 2nd place in class, Nato Lee, who really did a good job to try and hold off Hamza, but unfortunately, with the overall car pace that Hamza's got, he's just managed to make that move onto car 575. And with that car 575 in 2nd place, in 3rd, we go to Ryan Tame in Goat 13. Been in the thick of war, so you can see the damage, the battle wounds that he had with the LMP car in Sharky, sitting 3rd in class. And then we have Justin 930, Justin Baker, making his return to Trackstars Racing Series alongside Ollie Dalswell. Doing a great job bringing that 95 home in 4th overall in this stint, and will be looking to be potentially getting 4th overall, or at least on the podium in the overall standings. And then right behind in 5th place, we haven't seen much of this car here, but it's a great looking car. It's the Black Rose Racer car 80 rather, in DP Mario for Black Rose Racing, putting a nice livery there for that team. And then right behind in 6th place is Paul Rudsey for Motors Brewing PAG Sports, doing a nice job there, hanging on for car 84, joining a Kiwi team and an Aussie joining the Kiwi team. Is always something bound to go wrong with those guys. And unfortunately, and then down in 7th place there, or 6th place rather, is Severi, who looks just to be parking up onto the pit straight, maybe just wants to cross the line and just get his race over and done with. So, but unfortunately down in 6th place in class, and then we had our DNFs in both Lansdale and Robert Rice in the BCR, both MSR and BCR respectively.
Yeah, I think shout out for the livery on DP Mario's car, absolutely fantastic. And another shout out to Goat, so unlucky to get that 3-second penalty and then suddenly be involved with Sharky at the end. We were looking forward to quite the showdown between Sharky and Dan Wood. It wasn't to be, sadly today. We did see it in stint 1 when they were separated only by 1 second. But hats off to all the top 3 LMP drivers. What a show we've had today, with the rain, with the competition, with the accidents, the spinning round. We've had a true a testament to what Le Mans can bring, and what we've seen recently in the 24-hour race as well. So huge congratulations as across the line goes Dan Wood for the victory.
Yeah, so Dan Wood taking the victory for stint 4, but I don't think that's going to be enough for the overall victory as we go on board with car 51 in Fish, or Sharky, the uprising teenager that's putting through all the hard laps, bringing all the tunes in, helping his boys out to try and get accustomed to this car. As we heard from both Ando and Kurama, really struggling to get their cars working around this track, but with the help of Fish, to really get them into a headspace, to get them working this car to their liking, and really just trying to put on a great show for Intercontinental Esports. But the team has come through, and is going to be coming through to the Ford chicane for the final time, not only just taking 2nd place in this stint and overall at the end of stint 4, but they're going to come across the line of the Ford chicane as your victors for Trackstars Le Mans. The 8-hour event goes to car 51 in Ice Metropolis, piloted by both Fish, Dew and Scott. Big congratulations to those boys in the team there, back in the factory there, getting that victory for Intercontinental Esports. But then we cut towards Hamza in 7th place there, taking the lead. So he's taken the lead off Nato a few laps ago, but he's coming across the line through the Ford chicane. Going to take victory in the 8-hour in stint 4, but as well it's going to be, I'm not so sure where they might place. They might be placing 2nd or 3rd overall, but for the stint, Hamza can be happy with that. 2 stint victories for the man in car 14. Big congratulations to Ridwan in 7th place. Nato Lee finishing up in 2nd in class, getting himself a nice finish there for him. And then as well, we have Goat potentially finishing up in 3rd place. And Punts, what a return for the man who's making his return to Trackstars and Gran Turismo 7. Podium for car 32, can be happy with that, taking pride in stint 4, takes the line honours. As we see a bit of a spin in the background there for James Lee, went full send, and that looks to be the end of the stream there. But victory goes to Dan Wood for CP Motorsports, but the overall victory will be going to Intercontinental Esports, ISA Metropolis, car 51 in the Toyota GR010 hybrid.
Yeah, what a race. What a series. It's just been a great 8 hours of racing all around the grid. Some disappointment, I'm sure, for some of the teams, but elated victory and amazing results for others. around the grid. So, as someone who's participating with the Track Stars for the first time, congratulations to everyone. What a day! What a day, Nick.
Absolutely, I've only been here for a portion of the second half of the stint. Unfortunately, Jarman ruining my meeting with some higher class people, and just said, get yourself on the track here. We need you. So I brought my 2CV along with me, and having a bit of fun there. Just listen to some tunes, loving that air suspension on that Citroen. But yeah, it's good. It's good fun. It's always great to be a part of events like this that we hold at Track Stars Racing Series. And to all of our drivers, our 45 drivers that have competed with us here at Track Stars for the Le Mans 8 Hour, we do thank them so much for sticking it out and for really helping us bring an event like this to the family. Another race that we can bring to the Track Stars Racing Series community. Bring everyone involved, get everyone involved, have a bit of fun. And essentially, have some fun on a well-known, famous track that is Le Mans. But it is Danwood that takes out Stint 4, but the overall, as we said, goes to Sharky in car 51 for Isometropolis, doing a fantastic job, bringing that car home for victory. Got a little bit sketchy a couple of times on his end, especially trying to battle out with PLE Goat, which I think as well for him, for CP Motorsports, is actually going to be taking out class victory as well.
I believe so, yeah. The points are certainly looking that way at the moment with the good finishes they had in the first 3 stints, so congratulations to them.
Absolutely, and then we have third in Punts and making a nice little comeback there for him, and then Ward finishing 4th, Lee up in 5th, and then Walker in 6th place. Hamza takes the line honours in Stint 4, Nato Lee in 2nd place, and then in 3rd place we saw PLE Goat and Ryan Tame taking out the line honours and victory for the GT class. It's been absolutely amazing racing to see those two, and it could be potentially going their way, but it could also be going potentially to BCG as well, because it's going to be very, very close. I think the CP car got really close to getting the victory. They got victory in the first and last stint, but in that middle stint, they really struggled to get their cars in that working phase where the CP Motorsports entry was absolutely on fire.
Absolutely, yeah. So that'll come down to the wire, and the admins will, I'm sure, be working overtime to get all those results out for everyone in the Discord. Yeah. I think that's where it's all going to be posted, I'm sure. I'll be looking keenly to get some conclusions to all of those races. I guess that's one problem with it, isn't it? We've got to wait now for some of these results.
Oh, absolutely. When it comes to this, you just got to wait. You got to be patient. And as much as I'm thinking it might be going to CP, but BCG with that performance, really blew it out of the water. So you never know. We have no idea. I think we have an idea of LMP, but GT class is a bit too close to call. But as we go down, we see Justin 930 finishing up in 4th place in class, DP Mario 5th, Paul Rudd in 6th, and Silvestro Severi, as we saw him crossing the line, in 7th place, 6th place, while we had 7th place rather, whilst we had Tyler Lansdale from MSR and Robert Rice from CBR Racing, all retiring through DNFs, unfortunately. So that is the end of what has been an amazing 8-hour race here at Track Stars Racing Series. We'd like to thank our guest commentators in both Andrew Scott, Kurama, Pat Trappett, and also my fellow commentator Ian Grazer Kut Kung Fu, joining us for the stream for the last 2 stints.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me here as always. That's always great, and I'll give a shout out to obviously yourself, Nick, for being one of the admins, one of the organisers at Track Stars, for jumping out of what is very important meetings to be in the commentary box and filling in the gap, and also a shout out to Jarman as well, who's been handling the streams and the broadcast in the background mostly single-handedly throughout the entire 8 hours. So huge shout out to both of you as well. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Jarman Dallas to be bringing out an event like this, if it wasn't for him, we definitely wouldn't be seeing a Le Mans on Track Stars Racing Series. So we thank him for all of his hard work, for organising the event, putting on a show, and organising all the qualifiers and all the practice sessions and all of the really hard work, admin duties. But he's not done yet. He's got a lot of work to do now when it comes to sorting out results. So we'll give him time. Please give us time, ladies and gentlemen, resolution the as we find out who has won what class and who places where. So stay tuned for the Trackstars Racing Series Discord channel to see where your favorite driver ends up or where your favorite team ends up. But it is time for us to conclude our broadcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to Trackstars Racing Series. It's been an absolute pleasure to have everyone on board. And as we saw before the coverage started, we actually managed to hit 300 subscribers on Trackstars Racing Series YouTube channel. It's a huge accomplishment for Trackstars and for us as a team. And we thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in to the broadcast from Nick Patasso, George Cook, and Jarman Dalitz as the cameraman and series admin of Trackstars Racing Series. We thank you so much